Today we're going to talk about effective introductions and argumentative writing. In the introduction, you should include the following pieces of information. First, a lead or hook to get the audience's attention. You also need to include background information to introduce your issue. And finally, your thesis, which is the claim plus the reasons. There are different strategies to hook your reader, and the first one is a quote, such as this one. Former U.S. Secretary of State and presidential candidate Hillary Clinton advocated school uniforms as a way to help students focus on learning. That's one example that you could use to start your introduction, or you could go with an unusual detail, such as Americans spend around $1 billion on school uniforms every year, or a statistic or fact, such as a study found that 54% of 8th graders said they could still express their individuality while wearing uniforms. That is a fact from a study done by Dashiell. And you notice the percentage, and that tells us that's a statistic. There are a few more other strategies you can use. One is a strong statement, such as, school uniforms do not stop bullying and may increase violent attacks. Or you could start it with a question. Are school uniforms preventing you from being an individual? Or finally, an anecdote, which is a big word for story. Here's an example. It's the first day of school. You're running late. Your mom is yelling at you to get ready, but you cannot find the right outfit. No worries, you have a uniform. Here's an example of a paragraph, an introduction that has all the components that you need for a good introduction. I'm going to read the paragraph and then we'll label the parts. You're walking through the mall when you see it, the perfect outfit for the first day of school. The outfit that will help you define who you are and set the tone for the new school year. You're lucky because you attend a school where students are allowed to wear what they want. Some people think that students should be required to wear uniforms to school. However, uniforms don't make someone a better student. Students should not be forced to wear school uniforms because kids should be able to develop their own unique style. They should have a choice in what they want to wear. And there's no evidence that school uniforms increase safety in schools. So let's look at those parts and break down your introduction, which will be your first paragraph in your paper. This paragraph has first the lead or hook, and that is a story. Then it introduces the issue and gives a little bit of background information. Those are your middle sentences. And finally, you have your claim plus reasons, your thesis at the end, and that starts with students should not be forced to wear school uniforms because, and then you have your 3 reasons. Kids should be able to develop their own unique style. They should have a choice in what they want to wear. And there's no evidence that school uniforms increase safety in schools. So let's look at another example of an introduction paragraph. Middle school can be a really hard time in a kid's life. Kids are learning to be more independent and to participate in more social events. Peer pressure to fit in with other kids is huge. School can be really rough, especially if you're someone who can't afford to have all the things that everyone else has. Some people think it is important for kids to be able to have a choice and express themselves through their clothing. Being safe, developing friendships, and being able to focus on your schoolwork is more important than style. Uniforms help make schools safer for students because they encourage students to focus more on their studies. They're cheaper than the latest fashions, and uniforms help stop bullying. So this one started with a lead or a hook, and that is a strong statement that middle school can be a really hard time in a kid's life. Then it introduces the issue and gives background information. Those are the middle few sentences. And then finally, it gives our thesis statement. Uniforms help make schools safer for students because they encourage students to focus more on their studies. That's reason 1. They're cheaper than the latest fashions. That's reason 2. And uniforms help stop bullying. That's reason 3. Remember not to use any I statements like I believe, I think, or my opinion is. So it's your turn to brainstorm some possibilities for a hook or a grabber sentence. And you need to think about what is unique about the topic that we're studying. What interesting facts or statistics do you know about or have you researched? Are there any true stories that you know about that you can connect to the story? Okay. And then you're going to work on, after you practice doing this, drafting your own introduction. And remember, you have to capture your reader's attention with that lead or hook, give some background information, and provide a thesis statement. So in the document, the first thing that you're going to get is a help sheet that looks like this. And you're going to, this gives some examples of different hooks or grabbers, such as quote by a famous person, unusual detail, statistic or fact, strong statement, question, or an anecdote. And these are some examples of using those. Then finally, you're going to introduce the issue. That's the middle paragraph. And here's some examples of that. And then finally, some examples of your claim or your thesis statement. Okay, then you're going to, now after you've looked at all that, you're going to practice with this sheet right here, where you're going to practice writing introductions. First, you're going to take your own topic and your thesis, and you're going to come up with a quote by a famous person or expert. If you need to use a computer to do that, if you don't have that information already, then you can do that at this time. Then you're going to find an unusual detail about your fact or topic. Then I want you to write a statistic or fact that you can start off your paper with here, a strong statement, a question, and then I want you to use an anecdote or story. This can be one that you found online or through your research, or it could be one that you personally know about. So after you practice each of these introductions on your paper, then you're going to tell what you know about this topic already. We've been talking about this topic for a couple of weeks now. Just write 1 or 2 sentences about what you know about this topic. And this is going to be your background information. Then finally, you're going to add your thesis statement, which we've already written your thesis statement in class. So you're going to write that on these lines here. Remember to start with your claim, then use because, and then you're going to do reason 1, comma, reason 2, comma, and then and reason 3, period. So you're going to use the rest of class to work on this today, and then we're going to share those introductions with each other.